Namaskar. Hello and welcome to the session 3 of the Diet Doctor Primers, which we at Rethink India Institute, in association with the Arogyam Institute of Integrated Medical Sciences, have been bringing to you. And today's guideline, it is based on the ICMR dietary guidelines for Indians, the 17 very prominent guidelines, like the 17 UN SDG goals. These are the 17 path-breaking guidelines, and as ICMR statistics show, that 56% of the disease burden in the Indian population is because of unhealthy diet choices. And we started this discussion in the reverse order. We started with the guideline on how to read information on food labels to make informed and healthy food choices. We saw that how incomplete and inaccurate claims are made by the food processing companies, food organizations, and how to validate them. दिखावे पर न जाओ, अपनी अकल लगाओ. That is the cardinal principle in this age of consumerism. Despite having regulatory giants like FSSAI, who are having a tough time in regulating the adventurous, not every player is dicey, but then a large number of them do, because it's a competitive world. So at the end of the day, we cannot have a blind trust on the market forces per se, and even the governmental regulations have their own limitations. So somewhere or the other, our own understanding, our own knowledge, our own inroads into the dietary calculus, as we can say so, we all have to become detectives sometimes, and to unravel some of the hidden facets out there, what is being said, what is being meant, and what is actually out there in those products. भारतवर्ष में अश्विन मास का जो शुक्ल पक्ष है वो पितृपक्ष के रूप में मनाया जाता है. The 15 days in the Indian pantheon, it is dedicated to our elderlies, to our departed, and today's guideline is somewhat dedicated to the elderly. क्योंकि गाइडलाइन का जो क्रम था, इन्फेंट से लेकर एल्डरली तक का जो पूरा आरोग्यता का जो प्रसार है, जो पूरा वृत्त है, हमने सोचा कि इसको थोड़ा रिवर्स ऑर्डर में प्रस्तुत किया जाए. तो हमारे जो वयोवृद्ध लोग हैं, द जीरियाट्रिक पॉपुलेशन आउट देयर, उसकी डाइटरी हेल्थ और उसकी हेल्थ और वेलनेस के लिए क्या कुछ न्यूट्रिएंट्स चाहिए. इट इज नॉट जस्ट फ्रॉम द कंसेप्शन टू द 1000 days ऑफ अ चाइल्ड्स बर्थ. तो बालक से वृद्ध तक का जो सफर है, उसमें हमने वृद्ध को पहले लिया है. डॉक्टर सुरभि, again, her inroads into the preventive, protocolized, and integrative healthcare. She has a primary focus on the geriatric care, because that's where the fulfillment of the human life happens. बाल्यकाल में तो एक प्रारंभ होता है एक जीवन का, पर शरीर माध्यम खलु धर्म साधनम. तो हमारे जो वृद्ध हैं, हमारे जो एल्डरली हैं, एंड इन दीज 15 days वी आर कमेमोरेटिंग आवर डिपार्टेड वंस. जो एल्डरली हमारे चले गए, उनको भी हमारी परंपरा याद करती है. तो कैसे उनका स्वास्थ्य, उनका आरोग्य, जीवेम श्रद्धा शतम का जो भाव है. आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट डॉक्टर सुरभि फॉर हर ओपनिंग वर्ड्स ऑन दिस very important thematic, because our elderly are somewhere getting rejected, and they are in a dejected state of mind, and especially in the urban spaces, after having nurtured and educated our children, they abscond, they dump their elderly people for their greener corporate or their economic pastures. एंड कोई भी नहीं है, मानसिक रूप से भी वो बेचारे तनाव में हैं, और उनकी केयर करने को कोई नहीं है. एंड फिनोमिना वेयर पीपल गो ऑफ शोर्स, दे डोंट इवन विजिट आवर एल्डरली इवन इन देयर worst of the healthcare crisis. This is a phenomena which has become the new nefarious normal, as we would like to say, from the platform of Rethink India and Arogyam Institute of Integrated Medical Sciences. And one of the core things is the PIN, the psycho, immuno, and neuro. अधिकांश जैसे 56% अगर the health unhealthy, the disease incidence is because of the unhealthy food practices, so a significant chunk comes from the psycho, immuno, neuro. We cannot accord any numerical value to that. Over to Dr. Surbhi to take on the discussion of today's session forward. Yeah.
So, Namaskar. And the dietary guidelines for elderly geriatrics, as this the branch or discipline which deals with the care and medical treatment of the elderly. This is a very specialized field, and dietary guidelines for elders, is a very, very interesting field in itself. The elderly, they're usually attaining the position of grandparents in the family. They're there to bless us all. And as it's the Pitri Paksh now, so, they tend to neglect themselves. Firstly, this is point to be noted that the psychosomatic behavior of elderly would be that you need to care for them extra, and you need to nudge them, you need to cajole them, please have this, please have that. They need loads of respect and affection. And then, of course, the technical dietary guidelines do come into place. So the psychosomatic positioning of the elderly needs to be understood when we are dealing with the care of the elderly. So this, I would say, is the chief nugget when
तो
we
बहुत
are.
लाड से और प्यार से, जैसे माँ घर में, वी से दैट वल्नरेबल सेक्शंस आर द इन्फेंट्स, क्योंकि वो असहाय हैं। एल्डरली असहाय तो नहीं हैं, पर दे आर इनटू अ लॉट ऑफ इमोशनल टर्मोइल। तो इट इज द ड्यूटी, यस्टरडे वी सेड दैट परिवार वह है जहां तीन पीढ़ियां एक छत के नीचे रहती हैं। सो द यंगर वंस, द ग्रैंड चिल्ड्रन हैव टू टेक चार्ज ऑफ देयर ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स की दादू नानू, why don't you do
Absolutely.
this? Have you taken your medicines? You have to eat this. You have to take care of yourself. Because जिजीविषा, जीने की जो इच्छा है, उसको बलवती बनाए रखना, that is a part of the socio political constructs. And somewhere still in India we have the great good fortune that it is still is out there in the majority of the households. But yes, the aberrations have started happening. So this background is important because healthcare cannot happen in isolation. मनुष्य का शरीर अकेला नहीं है। जैसे कि हम आहार विहार विचार और उसके बाद औषधि की बात करते हैं, तो तन मन और आत्मा, इन तीनों का जो समेकित रूपक है, द इंटीग्रल कॉम्पैक्ट ऑफ माइंड बॉडी एंड सोल, इन्हीं का जब तीनों का समावेश होता है, देन ओनली वी गेट द इंटीग्रल आरोग्यता and a sustainable arogata in that sense. So coming to the subject matter of today's session, the guideline 16, the G16 of the ICMR dietary guidelines for Indians, it talks about including nutrient-rich foods in the diets of the elderly for health and wellness. The rationale behind this guideline is to remain healthy and active. Elderly persons need foods which are rich in vitamins and minerals, along with adequate physical activity. Now, how much, what all vitamins, what all minerals? Let the show begin. So, healthy food habits and regular physical activity are required to maintain good health and improve the quality of life. One of the core considerations which Dr. Subi keeps on educating her larger patient community is that while infants, at the stage of infants, the body is growing from an embryo, the body is growing up to 2 years of age, and then till different stages. That's where nutrition is important. At the geriatric age, the body is now coming to its closure. It is decaying. So that acceptance, no medical science can stop that. That's a natural biological phenomena. But then we have to understand that in this avasan ke samay pe, when it is decaying, a different kind of a care is required. So as age advances, people become less active and their metabolism slows and their energy requirement decreases. So aging is often accompanied by a loss of appetite and changes in taste and smell, which can lead to lower intake of required foods. Now, this is very important. In fact, I would like to devote a couple of minutes on this aspect कि हमारी जो पंचेंद्रियां हैं, पंच ज्ञानेंद्रियां जो हैं, a lot of emphasis is on the hearing and seeing, the visual and the oral senses. But then the three important senses which are so very important in the food intake is the touch, स्मेल एंड टेस्ट। हम लोग टेस्ट किसी फूड को बहुत लास्ट में करते हैं, सबसे पहले भी स्मेल, कहीं कुछ हलवा पक रहा है गाय के शुद्ध देशी घी में, तो पूरे मोहल्ले में एक बड़ी सुगंध आ जाती है। and it starts salivating. कुछ अच्छा सांभर इडली बन रहा है, कुछ something very sumptuous is getting cooked, so we smell it. But when the food comes to it, yes, we see to it. Food को बनाने वाला उसको सुनता भी है. Sizzlers we talk about in many of the recipes in the restaurants. They say, oh, it's the sizzler. So it has a lot of the smell, a kind of interesting smell. And then we touch the food. Abhi, we use a lot of spoons and forks. So somewhere or the other, the temperature, we can't determine it fast. But then when we devour it through hands, it has a science behind it. We might be having a different session with Dr. Surbi on that at a later date. And finally, it touches our tongue, and that's where the taste buds get activated. So smell and taste, it gets, कहते हैं ना, इंद्रियों का क्षय होता है वृद्धावस्था में. This is across pantheons. It's the observed truth all across. So this reduces the intake of the required amount of food, because smell कम हो गई, taste buds कम हो गए. So this has a challenge. So for healthy aging, the elderly, they need nutrient dense foods. So this term is very important, nutrient dense, that are rich in vitamins and minerals with adequate amount of good quality proteins, complex carbohydrates, and dietary fibers. So ensure adequate water intake to avoid dehydration, which is common among elderly. So this is what ICMR research is talking about. So who is an elderly person? Let's come to the brass tacks, the definition of it all. So an elderly person is an individual of 60 years and over. So as per the census of 2011, the absolute number of elderly population has crossed the 100 million mark in India, which is constituted around 8.6% of the total population. And the male-female ratio, if we see, women are outliving men by around zero point 0.8 percentage points. So out of this overall population, 8.2% are males and women are around 9% of the total population. And this number is expected to increase to 323 million by 2050. The demographic dividend of India is getting geriatric, like Japan is considered to be the oldest country in the world. And so 20% of the total population would stabilize, it will become elderly. So the elderly care burden, that's why Niti Aayog has come up with a very elaborate policy document as to how to create uh, a safe harbor in the society for the elderly people, and especially in the socio-economic advances we talked about it in the introduction part, that elderly people are not having their immediate children in the same campus, in the same household, to take charge of them, which used to be our Indian tradition, but somehow our economic progress has some way short-circuited it quite well. So what are the reasons for special nutritional needs for the elderly? So the body of an aging adult, it undergoes multiple physiological changes such as impaired digestion and protein utilization, altered body composition, insulin resistance, inflammation, and decreased bone density. The metabolism slows down after 60 years of age. Recent study found a 0.7% decrease in metabolism per year. That is energy expenditure in the elderly body. An elderly person needs fewer calories but more micronutrients than someone in midlife. Hence, elderly people require less energy but more micronutrient rich foods such as vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, eggs, and fish. That's the balanced route which ICMR is putting across. So, what are the health benefits of nutritionally adequate diets, which are called balanced diets, and physical activity? So, in the elderly population, regular physical activity, healthy food choices, and balanced diets have the potential to reduce the risk of most of the diseases. So, we can prevent the onslaught of diseases in the elderly space, so that जीवेम श्रद्धा शतम. तो एक डिजीज फ्री लाइफ का जो एक्सपायरी है, लाइफ का जो इंसिडेंस है, दैट इज व्हाट इज द गोल हियर. And like diseases like osteoporosis, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases like stroke and heart diseases, and certain neurological problems like Parkinson's, dementia, as well as muscle wasting, which is sarcopenia, that may occur due to aging. For healthy aging and to reduce health risks, minimize or avoid highly or ultra processed and HFSS food. So, while it is important for the youngsters to also avoid these HFSS foods, even for the elderly, this has been put out in a bracket out there. So, what type of a diet should elderly consume? So elderly population is advised to consume foods which are rich in proteins, calcium, micronutrients, and fiber. So every day, apart from cereals, with at least one third as whole grains, and pulses at least 200 to 400 ml of low fat milk products, low fat milk or milk products, a fist full of nuts. मुट्ठी भर के जो nuts and oil seeds and 400 to 500 grams of vegetables, including leafy vegetables and fruits are recommended. I would like to bring in Dr. Surbi की मुट्ठी भर के oil nuts का क्या वैज्ञानिक रूपक है Dr. Surbi, because it can vary from person to person. So some light on this. Yeah.
So nuts and oil seeds, these are very nutritional. The value is quite there. Say, for example, almonds, walnuts, and these are good for the heart. Almonds we know are good for the brain, for the heart, and for the decaying, body functions. It's an added supplement which provides strength to the body. In the elderly population. Also, oil seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds. Flax seeds are known to, they're nutritionally they're rich, and also they reduce cholesterol, which is often found as the body is advancing. Cholesterol is also chia seeds. Then even fenugreek, which we say methi seeds. So oil seeds in some form or the other we consume in the cooking.
Curiosity was primarily, Dr. Surbi, was fistful. What is the secret or logic behind a fistful of it all?
So fistful as in that it's adequate quantity, of course, because a fistful is it's a psychological way of saying that a fistful of nuts and oilseeds have to be consumed, because elderly will not consume for themselves. They will say for the child, for the pair, for the grandchildren. They will say you have. So unless you will emphasize to them, please take a fistful. You will give them that kind of measure, then it goes that emphatic. And of course, the quantity, portion size of the nuts and oil seeds, that has an impact.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So, such a balanced diet has the potential to provide essential macronutrients, micronutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. So, the whole plate, the elderly plate, has been enumerated so very well in this guideline. So, inclusion of pulses, legumes, milk, fish, minced meat, or egg, it increases protein quality and micronutrient intake. So, it is recommended to consume well cooked soft food preparations with less salt and moderate amount of spices, and they have enumerated in tables 16.1 and 16.2 and figure 16.1 and 2. We'll just come and demonstrate those to them. These are the tables and this is what they have put up as a kind of a chart. So we'll come to them, we'll explore them further. So minimizing or avoiding highly or ultra processed and HFSS foods will delay age-related diseases. So this is the secret mantra which ICMR dietary guidelines have brought about. And adequate water, which is 2 liters a day, should be consumed to avoid dehydration and constipation. I would like to again bring in Dr. Surbi that somewhere for the youngsters, this water consumption quantity is perhaps a bit higher. Would you
Yes,
please throw
definitely.
a light on this? Why lower, or what's the
So,
rationale behind it? Yeah.
so the balance of the right water intake has to be there. You see, as the aging proceeds, the kidneys are getting loaded. So, normally kidney function, the GFR, which we say the estimated glomerular filtration rate, is decreasing as the age advances. So we don't want to put too much of pressure on the kidneys. So adequate water, not less also, not
Mhm.
that less, that much less, because constipation is quite commonly found in the aged population. So again, fiber, which has been said here in the diet, nutrients, fiber, and then water intake, both are important. And then to also avoid dehydration, because many a times elderly people don't even consume water, so they have to take water, but not to the extent of the children and the young population, we say at least 5 to 6 liters of water, per day. So in
So
15.
almost one
Yes,
third is the rule for the
yes,
elderly people. Yeah.
you can say one third, at one third to one half at least. So adequate water, 2 liters per day. This is adequate for the elderly population.
Thank you.
Slightly
Thank
reduced
you.
intake, yes.
So why is regular physical activity important? So regular physical activity along with moderate exercise is an integral part of maintaining healthy life. Regular physical activity helps to maintain muscle mass, bone density, maintains body weight, improves brain function, and also reduces the risk or progression of degenerated diseases. So yoga, meditation, and other indoor or outdoor physical exercises are advisable, and exercise schedule should be decided in consultation with a physician, because this is a very well manicured, very well calibrated kind of age.
Absolutely, absolutely. Say, for example, when we're doing yoga, the bending the knees, how much, in which, till what level we can do these asanas, even exercise, gymming
Which
also.
asanas, also which asanas.
Which asanas? Yes,
Yeah.
important.
Because it's not a growing stage, it's a decaying stage, and that has to be accepted heartily. And because physical health is a part of the mental and then the spiritual health, as we say, that we
True.
have to now enter into the afterlife. So not with a sense of dejection, but with a, oh, we had a fulfilling life and now we have to complete our 100 mark as much as possible and then pass on to the next phase of the cosmic existence. So the two tables, what they had mentioned about table 6.1, which talks about the food groups and nutrient content of suggested balanced diet for an elderly man weighing somewhere around 65 kilograms. This is a diet chart which has been prescribed in a generic fashion. Yes, a physician would make some calibrations here and there depending on the specific health condition you are. So cereals and millets, 180 grams per day, which has an energy of around 1710 kilocalories. Pulses, a portion of pulses can be replaced by non-vegetarian meat and flesh, perhaps 80 grams per day. So total protein and visible fat, 60 to 20. Green leafy vegetables, 100 grams per day. And calcium, it gives the suggested nutrients as calcium, which comes milligrams 844 around. Other vegetables, you can take 200 grams, which gives iron, 22 milligrams. Roots and tubers, vegetables, excluding potatoes. So ICMR is very critical about potatoes. So excluding potatoes, 100 grams, which gives zinc, 10.2 milligrams. Dr. Saab, what is the function of zinc in the human body? Iron, calcium, we generally know, but zinc per se, what is the micronutrient zinc does in the body?
So yes, I mean, the micronutrients each have their function, So like you can say that quite a lot of cell membranes, and various other. It's a multivitamin definitely, and it's needed in various body functions like heart, brain. So like magnesium is there, zinc is there. These are the micronutrients.
Mhm.
So in cell membranes, the cells, there's a role of zinc, and it's needed for the immune system to properly function. It
Mhm.
plays a role in cell division, cell growth, wound healing, and
Thanks, thanks. This is
yeah.
not a very technical lecture, so we are refraining from giving the exact, I would say, biochemistry as to what zinc does into the whole cellular system. But yes, these metals, these micronutrients have got a phenomenal function, and then whatever we consume as a chemical based micronutrients, if we have a balanced diet, that comes as an aushadhi. But then if it can be consumed as a part of the daily diet, which is a tough thing to do, no doubt about it, because in the elderly alone families, who will procure so much of stuff, who will cook so much of things. A lot of things are dependent on the help, domestic help, and most importantly, to keep that verve, to keep that charm, because the grandchildren are not available. Even the children are nowhere to be seen for long epochs. Only telephones or video calls are out there. So, yes, but then the charm has to be brought about, because life, human life, has a meaning. It has been granted to us for a purpose, a higher purpose. So then only it will initiate, it will motivate us to consume this balanced diet. So fruits again, milk, fats and oils, oil seeds and nuts, gingerly seeds and peanuts, spices. So they have their nutrient values of suggested food groups. So as a part of the worksheets which we'll be giving to our prospective diet doctors, yes, we will be expecting them to have a fair memorization of these quantities, and also the uh, a fair degree of in the order, not exact. We will not ask you 9634, but yeah, around 1,000 micrograms of beta carotene will come from fats and oils, or say 160 around micrograms of vitamin A from around 400 grams of milk. So yeah, the doctors would be giving you the idea, but then as diet doctors, you need to have a fair understanding and a command over these tables, and at least you should have as them as a reference to. They have also done a separate table for the elderly women weighing 55 grams kilograms. They have put up a marginal difference between the male and the female weight also. And generally, this intake is quite instructive, and we at Rethink India will try to do a comparative analysis also, so that uh, relative understandings can be made. Like spices have no differential, both can consume the same quantity. Spices, oil seeds, fats and oils, there is a marginal difference. Milk, it is the same. Fruits, again, it is the same. Roots and tubers is again the same. Other vegetables, again, it is the same quantity prescribed for both of them. Green leafy vegetables, again, the quantum is same. The variation comes in cereals and millets as per the weight, and in the pulses, very marginal, very difficult to apportion in the family categories. But then, yes, they have put up some scientific differential in the fat and oil, pulses, cereals, and millets, a bit lower. Just kind of a suggestion they have put up. And they have come with suggested diet for normally nourished elderly men. It's kind of a diet chart, a very standard one. Like you can take breakfast in 8 to 9 a.m., which should be around 420 kilocalories. So very difficult to ascertain, but yes, kind of a suggestive thing. 100 milliliters milk, soaked and boiled whole grains, around 150 grams, boiled red or black beans, cowpea or chicken pea 20 grams, green leafy vegetables 50 grams, vegetables 100 grams, oil 5 grams, nut 10 grams. Dr. Surbi, this is a scientific way. This is a scientist way of communicating, but as a practitioner, culinary expert yourself, and being a practicing doctor, how do you see that these charts can be actually implemented, practically implemented in the households? Some ideas.
So basically, you need to understand the overall intent and purport of the diet chart which is being recommended.
Mhm.
So some, substitutions or deviations here and there, which eventually have similar impact, can be accommodated. But the larger schema has to be followed, and there are various ways and means. The empowered dietitians, what they do, they give you various options. Say, for example, when we're talking of, say, in the breakfast for elderly, we are saying boiled red black beans or cowpea chickpea, so 20 grams. And dinner, we are saying, that say for example the protein content or is lesser in the dinner, breakfast and lunch have a higher protein content. So you need to make the patient or the caregiver and both the elderly, the target audience, understand why this schema is there. Once they understand, it gets implemented. It's very easy to follow.
So it's not like a medicinal proportion which has to be perhaps accurate to even the two significant digits. It's a
Yes,
large
it's a
suggestive
larger
regimen.
suggestive regimen. Yes.
Yes, and in annexures, and we would be coming to the operational part of it once the philosophy and once the larger design is well into place as to
True.
how, like 490 kilocalories, uh, how to ascertain 490 and 760. Because in today's time, a lot of stress is of this mental measurement also. A lot of figures who come to us, they come to haunt us. So we need a kind of a simplified translation
The
of
best
this.
way, yes,
Yeah.
the best way to understand this is if the overall caloric diet is 1740 kilocalories per day. So this percentage is it's like 420, 490, and 760. Lunch is the main meal. This
Mhm.
is one nugget, one take home point. Lunch is the main meal, 760 kilocalories. Breakfast and dinner are almost equivalent, with breakfast being slightly lesser only than dinner. Dinner
Mhm.
also not to be very heavy. So when this messaging is to the brain, to us, accordingly we can, it's not, if 490 becomes 500, no, 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 this is not right. That's not the case. You see, the larger overall schema, even if that is followed, it will lead to a lot of good health
And
and
the other suggestive thing what we can see is from this chart is the timings. Uh,
yes,
because generally
absolutely
the habits of the midlife they keep on haunting in the elderly life also. So
correct.
so perhaps breakfast, many of the midlife people have not seen it because they have to reach their offices, and 8 to 9 p.m. is perhaps the time in transit. And lunch is fine, but then dinner is again quite late. And evening beverages generally we have heavier than the dinner, perhaps, and that. So I think we will need further applied knowledge and applied
also
permutations and combinations around that. Yeah.
Also, we need to understand that the timing of the meals for the elderly need not be the same as the other members in the family. So the
Yes.
elderly need to pay heed to this, that their timing has to be according to their body, their schedule, their life. What has been recommended. See, if the office goers are coming by 8:30, they would have dinner by 8:30 or 9, which is usually happening. So it's not healthy. But if the elderly will wait till 9 p.m., their schedule gets.
So this is the backside or lopside of having a joint family, perhaps. So if the elderly are staying separately, independently, so perhaps they can have a more healthier regimen. So that's a blessing in disguise, perhaps. But those who are really in the joint families with the children, with the caregivers, I
Yes,
think
caregivers.
elderly have to give up the mental taboo because their body has got a different regimen, and they have to subscribe to that over there. And this is a very
Absolutely.
vital point, very practical point Dr. Surbi has mentioned about it. And as a part of our worksheets, we will be asking our diet doctors to get the surveys done as to how the elderlies are mingling, because elderlies go into a kind of a denial. And Dr. Surbi, I would like to really talk to you, ask you to mention this psycho immuno neuro component, something drawn from the spiritual perspective, and also what actually happens unknowingly with the elderly.
So, there are two aspects. One is that the elderly are very, caring, affectionate, naturally. They have attained that role of grandparent, even elderly parent. So one is that they care a lot for the children and for the family overall, at the cost of neglecting their own health. And many often, elderly parents or grandparents might be even dependent financially, on the family because they retire or some kind of a dynamics is that way. So the psychosomatic, positioning of the elderly is denial. Why we need to understand. We need to make them feel special. कहते हैं कि पेरेंट्स हमारे साथ नहीं रह रहे, हम पेरेंट्स के साथ रह रहे हैं, सो दिस काइंड ऑफ अ positioning of how you address them, how you deal with them, how you treat them, and you make them feel special. So that is one. And second is, of course, cajoling and nudging. ये खा लीजिए, ये ले लीजिए, please have this, and please. And in this, if we incorporate the younger grandchildren, it becomes a moment of pleasure. It becomes a opportunity to, for both the grandchildren and the grandparents, it becomes a occasion of joy. So this is how the
So here
psychosomatic
comes the
style
cultural
can be addressed.
values of
Yes,
a
yes.
civilization. And even if one is a adherent of the utilitarian hedonist lifestyle, the mid-age people, they have to understand that they would be becoming elderly in a short while. And the kids whom they are working for, uh, they would be in the role of the caregivers. So it's a circular economy on the circular social structure, which also has to be paid heed to it. Not everything can be put up into an economic and commercial package. And integral view of the social balance and the economic benefits have to be tailored like a balanced diet. And then only a care can be given to our elderly. The medicine is a issue. A healthy diet is an issue. The midlife people can devour, they can catch hold of their lunch, the greasy ones, the things like that. Perhaps many a times, many of the elderly are not even consuming lunch at all, somewhere or the other, if they are living in a dependent children space. So these are some of the challenges in the elderly healthy diet. All the focus goes on to the infants, to the children, to the adolescents, and the midlife people, the working ones. They hog the limelight because they feel, oh, this is our age to consume, to live the life. But then elderly needs time and concern. So in a similar fashion, ICMR graphic designers have really gone to greater extent to create these diet charts as a part of this mammoth 148-page guideline document. We will try to take them away, print them across for larger dissemination for our diet doctors, because apart from the intellectual component, I think what Dr. Surbi always mention over and over again, it's the intent to serve, it's the intent to care, because all knowledge, all everything comes just rushing once the intent is out there. That respect, that reverence, what we have in our social compact. So I would now request Dr. Surbi to sum up today's guideline. Some very salient points have really come to us, apart from the social and familial concerns. So, Dr. Surbi, the points to register and sum up.
So the elderly, it's needed that they eat a variety of nutrient-rich foods. Wherein we talk of the carbohydrates or the energy sources may be slightly lesser, but the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals need to be in ample amounts. Muthi bhar ke nuts, fistful of nuts and oil seeds is what is recommended for their overall body functions to happen nicely, properly. Ensure regular physical activity, because as the body is, slightly, going towards the decay, physical activity takes a backseat. So that needs to be ensured that we are not missing out on physical activity. It can be gentle, brisk walk or a little walk in the garden or in the park. We have to encourage and make structures so as to help the elderly do that little bit of physical activity. Third is avoid high fat, sugar, salt, and ultra processed foods with high amounts of salt, sugar, and fats. That is salt restriction, sugar restriction, fat restriction. Both needs to be, all the three need to be looked into. Consume adequate water to avoid dehydration. So water, can be given as water, drinking water, or other beverages, liquids which are like nariyal pani or lemonade, nimbu pani, or some kind of ways wherein the water intake is consumed. And of course, dairy sources are there, milk, tea, coffee, of course, that is there. So,
So, Dr.
in a,
Surbi, one last query from you is the need of the elderly in terms of HPSS and UPF foods. Uh, how to balance it in a joint family where there are infants or children, they would like to eat up a market-based chips and things like that. The kitchen is the same, the domestic help is the same. the timings are different, the requirements are different. So, how to practically balance it out in the complex domestic scenario?
So there are two things, you know. One is that what is good for health is good for health for all, you know.
Okay.
So healthy food is healthy food. You know, if the kids want what we call chatar matar, you know, or the pepped up food items, there are
Mhm.
ways of having healthy food items which can be cooked at home, which can be consumed by elderly also, you know. So we have to come to a middle mean, you know, which is two steps from the children coming to the elderly and two steps from the elderly also coming to the children.
But the
And
quantity can be moderated.
quantity can be moderated, one. And second, when you are preparing, when you see there are two steps in cooking, you know, one is the basic boiling or the preparation of the ingredients. You can have, जैसे छोंक लगाते हैं और नमक डाल रहे हैं, तो you can have two pots, you know. एक
Mhm.
पॉट बच्चों का जिसमें सॉल्ट और because their needs are different, you know. और एक जब आप उसको प्रोसेस कर रहे हैं, you know, in garnishing it and all, so you can garnish another pot just a little bit for the
So, kind
elderly.
of a restaurant, kind of a food processing
Correct,
assembly
correct.
line can be created.
And this is very much possible, you know. So
Mhm.
if in a family, it's a joint family or a huge family of 5 to 7 to 8 persons, you know, very often somebody wants taste buds also need to be catered to. So
Mhm.
you can come to a middle mean, but if somebody wants a little bit of more this thing, which is not harming their health, you know, a thoda sa ek chonka bana ke, you can prepare a separate version of it. Yes, but
Mhm.
overall the family must come towards coming to a middle mean
A
where everyone
consensus.
converges, a consensus.
A convergence of it all. And I think Dr. Surbi said a very, I would say, cardinal message. What emanated was a healthy diet is healthy for all. So
All
it's not
for
just
all.
that HFSS or UPFs are not are perhaps healthy for the infants
They're
or children
not at all
going into the
recommended for
midlife.
children. Yes,
And that
yes,
is where our next session, the guidelines 15th, would entail in greater detail minimizing the consumption of high fat sugar salt, the HFSS, which is a kind of a poison, we can say in a colloquial term, reduce as much
absolutely.
as possible. And ultra processed foods, again, the whole market, the whole food processing industry is dumping, like the dumping of trade goods into the sovereign national economies. So the market forces are dumping the UPFs on us. So, how to defend our own families, our own self at the individual level from HFSS and UPFs, perhaps is the subject matter of our next session. Thank you so much for being with us and patiently listening to each one of these sessions. These are the baseline content based on the ICMR dietary guidelines for Indians. And on top of it, we will be coming up those who register for this program. The program would kickstart on the World Food Day, 16th of October, and we plan to felicitate our diet doctors on the World Health Day, 7th of April, 2025. So this is a kind of a circular. Our diet doctors would get enough time to prepare and get sensitized, and most importantly, apply these nuggets in their own domestic households. Also, propagate them in their zones of control, their classrooms, and their zones of influence. Because teachers are someone who are contagions of civilizational virtues and values, and ICMR has done a immense job by synthesizing the Indian knowledge systems in culinary sciences and ratified immensely by the modern scientific evidence. It's all science based. It's nothing colloquial here. It's phenomenally anchored into the most modern scientific advances. So this synthesis was required, and we at Rethink India, as per the nudging of ICMR itself, are trying to spread the word around. वो कहते हैं ना कि अच्छे काम करते जाओ, let the noble thoughts spread all across. And we hope that these sessions would really come handy in reducing the disease burden of around 56%, which happens due to the unhealthy food burden. I thank Dr. Surbi for giving her expert inputs drawn from her deep inroads into the medical sciences. We will be back again with the next session, as we mentioned. Till then, namaskar.